It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. Thank you so much once again, as I always say, for choosing to start your day with us. I understand that there are many choices out there. I'm going to make it worth your while right now, because today we are spotlighting one of the most, I think, haunting works to come out of the Baxter Zabalaza Theatre Festival. It's a melting pot of creativity. This one, I think, is going to hit hard. A Pandok Liefde, obviously with my trademark accent, written by the incredible Lawrence Snyders and named Best of the Fest, and that is quite a mark. This powerful production now takes center stage at the Baxter Studio, and I'm so glad that it's got its space to shine. Set in a tin shack on the margins of society, it follows Nettie and Bobby as they confront the lingering shadow of trauma and the fragility of memory. I have a feeling this is the lived experience of far too many South Africans. And joining us this morning is the writer, Lauren herself, director Samuel Dramat, and actor Dylan, who just goes by Dylan. You can leave the Fredericks for his parents. He brings Bobby to life. So can we give them a massive round of applause from our non-existent studio audience? I know you get tears and cheers and people rolling around in the aisles. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
I know when you're in it, and especially something as emotional as this, it's very difficult to look out. But in the theatre space, everyone who comes with you gets dragged into that emotional journey as well. So this is a beautiful, but a very, I would imagine, quite a hectic thing to deal with. So can you talk me about the framing of this story? You go there.
Yeah.
It sounds like this is a very raw and honest grappling with something, unfortunately, that so many young South Africans, young South African women have to deal with in the daily.
Yeah, so when I wrote this story, I wanted to speak on trauma and I wanted to speak on healing and the balance thereof, and if there is ever healing after trauma. And so I wrote it about this couple. I based it in a place called Ver Genoeg, which is a real place just on the outskirts of Kimberley.
And perfectly named.
You know, perfectly named. Ver
My
Genoeg.
goodness.
But yeah, it was basically a space created during the forced removals for people of color, and so still exists, but still that place is ridden with poverty. And so this couple lives in Ver Genoeg in a shack, and they experience this trauma where one day Hetty goes out and she goes to the toilet in the evening, and then she gets followed when she comes back, and unfortunately gets raped in front of her husband. And then we deal with what that looks like for her afterwards, what that looks like for him afterwards, and how they deal with it together, and whether love can technically conquer all.
We never look at it duality. We don't look at it as a combined trauma between man and woman. And often the man and the woman will be out of time with each other in terms of how that trauma lands. So it's difficult for them to be on the same page.
Yeah.
Does this speak, and can I ask you this? And I know I'm asking you on live TV, but I would imagine you can't go to a place like this without personal experience in the space. Why did you need to tell this story?
Yeah, I think for me, I know too many people who have survived gang rape, and so for me, it was so important to tell this story. So I've known people. I keep finding more people along the way. It never stops. Where we find women who have been sexually abused in some way.
And it's like a normality.
Yeah.
If you come from that community, it's the expectation.
Yeah. The stats I read the other day, the stats is at least within 1 hour, 12 women, something like that.
Yeah, no, it's insane. When the lights go out, you must see how the numbers change. It is absolutely crazy. So thank you for going there. James, thank you for patiently listening to us talk for these moments, because
No, it's okay.
I would imagine you get a lot of moments like this. Maybe, Samuel, I can ask you, how do you approach something like this? And congratulations on Best of the Fest, by the way, to all of you. That's just absolutely, I know you don't need the validation, but it's great. But how did you approach this? I mean, with kid gloves, or do you just go all in, tread lightly? I don't know how.
I think, first of all, for me, it's always an honor to work with stories similar to A Pandok Liefde. It feels like it's close to home. There's a lot of personal stuff, I think, within the story. For me, I love the rawness. I think being real, telling the story like it is. And I also think just making space for breathing and also taking in. And I think this whole process was an open discussion. How do we meet the story, and what does this story means to us. So for me personally, it's one of the most emotional journeys, I would say.
I'm struggling. Yeah, I don't know how you guys look at each other without crying, because what you're doing is such a beautiful thing. The words "lead with love" seem to just be screaming in my head right now, because I can't think of another way to approach this.
Yeah.
Are you all right, brother? How are you doing through this process, guy?
It's quite intense.
What has the journey been like for you, man?
It's quite an intense journey for me, like with the character, or to portray the character Bobby, whose sense of masculinity and identity is profoundly shaken by the trauma. And I think with the psychological preparations, I try to focus on the vulnerability, the inner conflict, and his identity. And then there's also this thing of...
And that can disappear in a moment.
Yeah, it can disappear. And also I try to deal with the silence of the character. Like the things that Bobby doesn't say often speaks louder than what he does.
And that's the man.
Yeah.
That's the man right there. You've got a deep understanding of the male-female energy and dynamic. Do you believe that healing is possible now that you have put yourself through this journey? Because I think maybe the process is the answer, not the outcome.
Yeah.
But how do you feel now?
Yeah, I think that for me, I feel like that healing is possible. That no matter what you've been through in this life, that there is parts of you that can heal. And that if you're just willing to take the steps, because it's a self thing as well. So trauma might come, but what happens after? That you don't sit in your pain, you don't make home in it. What does that look like for you?
You don't make a home in it. I like that. What has Bobby taught you? What has changed within you? Because you must change through a process, like grow, hopefully.
I think with this character, it creates an opportunity for me to face my own pain, and not to hide it anymore, and to bring that on stage to make the story more real, because we are dealing with true stories, with real stories, and you might have an audience member there with the same story.
Guaranteed. And if you're doing this in Cape Town, you will.
Yeah.
And that is terrifying in itself. It's amazing to me people won't go there, and I think it's not because they are scared for the reaction. It's having to become so raw and put yourself through this so you can do justice to those that you have the responsibility to. And it's mind-blowing that I'm looking at 3 unbelievably young South Africans who are brave enough to put themselves in this position to help other people. Thank you so much, and congratulations once again.
Thank you.
You were up against some big guns as well, so if you're going to announce your name in the theatre space, best of the fest is how you do it. But I think the lived experience is what needs to be experienced here. Everything about this is ticking the right boxes. A Pandok Liefde is not just a play, it's a reckoning. And it could be our reckoning, and maybe we need that right now. A confrontation with silence and survival, and production doesn't offer easy answers. It offers raw truth, possibly a mirror that we need to look into. And if you're ready to witness theatre that dares to dwell in the storm, the eye of the storm, you can watch this powerful production at the Baxter Studio Theatre from the 9th to the 13th of September. Tickets will go fast, but they are available right now, ridiculously low priced, between 65 and 120 Rand. Book yours at webtickets.coza. And I would add to that, if you have personal experience in the space, think critically, speak to someone about it. And if you need help after watching something like this, I always reach for the depression and anxiety group. I speak to them regularly myself as a sufferer of childhood trauma and things that I'm yet to fully unpack. Lean on people, but thank you for being brave enough to go there.
Thank you.
Love you, man. I love you, man. Well, let's head back to jobbing. Let's see if they can beat that in the emotional stakes. I don't think so.